Hey, thanks for tuning in for another great conversation here on Strong Leader Development Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, you can catch every episode on your favorite platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So we'd look forward to you tuning in and on those platforms. Hey, so glad that you're here today joining us on this webinar around people pleasing and trying to lead authentically. Um, yeah, it's an interesting situation as a pastor, ministry leader in our church and ministry world who who are really somewhat vulnerable to people pleasing. And honestly, it's the good pastors, good ministers who fall into this. It's what I'd call the pastor's heart. So you have this calling to be a pastor. You have this calling to be a minister, to be in ministry, to be guiding people. And it's really, really difficult sometimes to hold boundaries and not be concerned about what others are thinking. Are we doing this correctly? Are we following our path? Are we shepherding and leading and guiding well? I mean, you care deeply about people and you're tuned in to what they're feeling. You want to help, you want to support, you want to show up, you want to be there, you want to be the person they go to. And that's not weakness, that's actually a strength. However, that same strength, when it's not grounded, becomes the very thing that takes you out. And what starts as compassion slowly turns into obligation. What starts as care turns into a sense of over responsibility. And somewhere along the way, you stop asking what's true for you. And you start by saying yes when something in you is hesitating. You feel responsible for other people's emotions. You carry things that were never yours to carry. And if you're really honest with yourself, there's a quiet resentment building underneath. There may be a tiredness, some weariness as this burden of carrying what you care about people becomes really, really heavy. And it's what happens when that heart takes over without setting any kind of guidelines or boundaries for yourself. Your desire to stay connected overrides your willingness to stand in truth. And it's really hard for you to step back and see that you're actually allowing some of what they think and feel to direct you. Right? So the key here is a pastor, ministry leader's heart without boundaries does not truly produce love. It produces exhaustion, resentment, and quiet disconnection. And underneath it all is usually a fear that we don't talk about. You may ask this question or these questions as you're working through this. If I disappoint them, will they pull away? If I tell the truth, will I lose connection or lose members, lose a following? If I stop showing up this way, who am I really? And we've talked about understanding who you are in a previous webinar, but we often will catch ourselves with this heart really going across some of the lines that we set for ourselves into people pleasing, and it's really difficult. So instead of leading from a sense of clarity, you start leading from pressure. Instead of choosing, you start reacting. And instead of living from strength, you start managing people, their emotions, their thoughts, their ideas. So today we want to expose that pattern a bit, not to shame it, but to free you from it, because the goal is not to lose your heart, it's to anchor in your strength. So people pleasing is not necessarily kindness. It's actually a survival strategy that's rooted in fear. Authentic leadership requires you reclaiming your center and telling the truth and standing in grounded strength. So, by the end of this, hopefully, you'll recognize some of your people pleasing patterns. You'll understand the deeper drivers, maybe fear, shame, or false agreements that you're making, and you learn a practical pathway to shift into authentic leadership and hopefully identify what a concrete step within this. So most ministry leaders don't fail because they're too strong, they fail because they're too agreeable. So if you want to be a good pastor, good ministry leader, but you keep abandoning yourself, you say yes when you mean no, you avoid conflict and you want to call it peace, those are some key indicators that you are in your trap of people pleasing rather in living your true self within your calling and then still guiding the ones that you care for and the ones that you're leading, right? This misaligned part of our heart creates a seeking of approval, and it really disempowers the strength we need to lead from. Uh, and we've actually abdicated some of our authority when we are really going on the emotional ups and downs of what they think, what they may want, what they're emotionally bringing to us in order, honestly, in some ways, just to keep them happy, hoping that if they're happy, we'll be happy. But this type of approach is really not love. It is fear wearing a mask. So here, what are some of the core drivers of that? Well, fear of rejection, fear of conflict. You know, we've had issues in the past and conflicts didn't work out well. Fear of losing connection. Are they following me? Are they connected to me? Are they buying in? Or even close connection with some of the ones that are closest to us, maybe some of our leaders. And some of the early agreements that we make, if I'm good with them, I'll be safe and they will want to follow me. We make these agreements in our heads around that sort of thing. We make an agreement that if I were to just set aside some time for myself, they would be wondering where did I go? And they might not want to continue to stay in connection. This part of you isn't evil, right? This isn't a bad thing. This is goodness that is just out of line. And it is a form of actually protecting yourself, right? This part of you learned how to keep you safe, but now it costs. And it's costing time, it's costing energy, it's costing maybe some of the close relationships in your family to you sometimes. It just gets difficult. So what we've done is we've created these false agreements. My values come from being liked and being noticed and being followed. Conflict means disconnection. That tension of conflict in church is often difficult. If I disappoint them, I'm going to lose them. And what happens is we play into what's going on in their world. By doing this, we're playing into a pattern of life they may be doing in their world, and living and behaving in such a way that they pull people into their world, and it's not really working for them, but they think it is. And when they pull us as ministry leaders and pastors into that world, we're actually playing into it rather than helping them be guided out of that. But our fear is meeting their fear, and we get in this cyclical pattern, and it's really difficult. And it costs, right? It costs us. We create some resentment in our heart. We're saying yes to some things we shouldn't say yes to, hoping that it will create a better relationship and better following, when all along we're not in a full body yes. And because of that, there's some resentment that we've said yes, and we actually want to blame a little bit. The relationships, another cost, relationships lack some depth. It doesn't have any kind of depth. There's no give and take. It is just all give and they take. Our leadership actually becomes weaker or inconsistent when we follow this pattern. If you come from the earlier cost of resentment and you put this into your leadership, we can become quippy at times. We can act outside of ourselves with an edge that is unsafe, right? And we end up losing some respect of them, and we lose respect for ourselves, not realizing it. And then, honestly, when we overcompensate in a people pleasing way, we disconnect from our heart, the original heart that we had for guiding them in the first place. We actually disconnect from that to some degree. So every time you abandon yourself for somebody else, something inside you goes quiet. Now, I want to be careful because we are to sacrifice. Part of our calling creates some sacrifices. And those sacrifices don't just happen for us, they happen for those around us. But everybody's in agreement that this is the ministry that we are a part of. And we realize there will be difficulties and there will be sacrifices. There are times when that call at 8 o'clock at night comes in and you have to spend an hour talking somebody off of the ledge. That's not necessarily people pleasing. That's a part of what I've done, what I'm called to be, and how I'm supposed to lead my flock. But the idea is, what is the intention behind me saying yes? So understand there are some sacrifices, but don't be deceived that the sacrifices also means you sacrifice your heart and lose your authenticity while trying to guide them and end up pleasing, or what you think is pleasing, them. So we end up falling down this route of approval seeking. We actually become passive or avoidant. Our guidance disappears, and we end up rationalizing all of this instead of being truthful. So reflect on this. As you lead your people, where might you be currently resentful? And where did you say yes where you honestly meant to say no? And how do we shift? How do we move from this people pleasing back to the original pastor's heart that we had, so that we can guide authentically with good boundaries, and yet with love at the same time? Well, let's do what I would call a three-part framework. First, it is being aware that I'm in this. This doesn't feel right. There's an awareness. Notice the moment that you feel tightness, the urgency to agree, the fear of disappointment, and put a name to it. What would you call it? It might be just people pleasing. It could be that, as simple as that, but name it. Actually give it a name. That brings awareness. It puts some teeth into this is how I'm behaving. This is who I think I'm supposed to be. This is the way I think I'm supposed to act. And this is not lining up with what's going on inside. And it's hard. I just keep doing it. So be aware and give it a name. Okay, that's the first. And even understand the language behind it. For example, maybe you would say, a part of me wants to keep the peace right now. Okay? Just be aware that that's going on. That's first. Maybe write it down, journal it, get it, mark it, but know that you're now aware. Then second, start looking into the truth underneath. What is actually true for me? Like, not what's polite, not what's expected, but what is real. And practice these sentences. What is true? What's true for me is I'm not willing to commit to blank. That does not work for me. Right? Recognize that it is against your truth when you are pushing into this people pleasing. Right? And what is truth? What's really going on? I really do not want to step into this. Again, recognize the difference between some of these things are sacrifices and some of these things are people pleasing. So be aware that it's in the people pleasing, not necessarily in the sacrifice area. Or here's something else, just a little side note. Sometimes out of people pleasing, we make a commitment that now we feel like we must keep to stay in integrity. Well, the key to that is finish that commitment and do not recommit. Right? Understand your truth that's going on and finish what you agreed to finish, but don't recommit. Start to set the boundaries based off of the truth. I should have never said yes to this. How many times have you said that? Right? Oh, I should not have said yes to this. I wish I had not said this. Recognize that, finish it, stay in integrity, and then change it based off of the truth that's coming up for you. Remember, go back to awareness. When you are in the middle of finishing a commitment, be aware of what's going on, what's true, and then begin to move towards this third part, which is courage and saying it cleanly. Cleanly explain, this is not something I'm willing to do again. No over-explaining or apologizing for your existence. Now, I do want to say, you don't apologize for who you are and your truth. You can apologize for saying, I overcommitted and I realize I did that from a heart that I felt like was a pastor's heart, which honestly, all I'm really doing is people pleasing. Just own it, right? But you don't have to apologize for who you are. Just own that I should have said no when I said yes. I have been leading you from a non-confrontational part of me out of fear. If you own those things, they will tend to be able to connect with why you're saying no, and you don't have to apologize for who you are. I hope that makes sense, the difference between those two. You know, kind does not equal nice, and loving does not equal avoiding the conversation. You've got to be clean and direct. You bring truth with care, and together that is your integrity. It's within you, right? You are lining up now by speaking that out of courage and not stepping back into this same loop and pattern. Now, they may react. They may react to this new way, new framework that you want to follow. And your pastor's heart can walk alongside them, but not continue to people please. I see that you're uncomfortable with what I'm doing here. How do I support you in that within the bounds of what I've already said? So you can ask those questions. Put yourself in a place of choice when you ask those questions, right? What would it take to support you? They may give you something that you can say, I'm not willing. Also, be careful about your language. I'm not willing versus I can't. I can't put you in a victim space. To what? Can't. Who? Who? Right? So it is, I'm not willing to do that. That's hard for them to hear, but it's more true to your integrity rather than I can't. You are in a place of choice. Right? Put yourself in that. All right? So let's do something for a moment. Think of one place right now where you are overcommitted, avoiding truth, or saying yes out of obligation. Now, ask yourself these questions. What am I currently doing? What's actually true for me? Is this lining up? And what would it sound like for me to say it cleanly? If you got time, jot those down. What am I currently doing that's not working? It's an internal turmoil. It's creating resentment. It's giving me an overcommitted sense of overwhelm. And what's actually true? Where did I say yes where I shouldn't have? And then what would it sound like for me to say it cleanly to the persons or group that I need to speak to? And actually practice it out loud with somebody who is a close confidant. Hey, this is where I am. I've learned that this is what I'm currently doing and what's actually going on underneath the surface. And this is what I think I want to say. And say it out loud, because oftentimes I say this all over the place. We have conversations with ourselves in the car. We have conversations with ourselves while we're taking a shower. We have all these conversations with people that we want to have this direct communication with, and it sounds great right there. Then we get across from a human, and it does not go anywhere like we thought it was going to go. So find a confidant, find a coach. I'm willing to listen to you and walk you through, and reflect back and forth how that's going to go, and then land on, sometimes the person you talk to may give you advice on how to say it. If it's still not matching up right here, you're going back to people pleasing if you say it just like they told you. So take what they tell you and shape it to fit you, but also be clean, direct, and take ownership. Ownership in that, not I can't, but I'm not willing to. Okay? Then notice the transformation. The old way you would respond, say, yeah, I can probably make that work. Yeah, I can probably do that. To, yeah, I'm not willing to do that right now. But keep it in front of me. Let's see what changes. Right? See the difference? Now, that's tough. I know it's tough because they're already expecting, especially if you built this world of people pleasing, there are going to be people who react to this and it's going to take them some time. I remember being in this space at one point in my job where I was the principal of a Christian school. And I learned that I was wearing myself out, setting my life up like that. So I began to try to delegate and empower. And in some of those cases, I was not willing to do some of the things I was once doing. And the people who were expecting it from me really reacted pretty heavily. It took a while. Now, I didn't handle all of it very well the first few times, but I got better at it. And if you don't handle it well, you are a pastor, a ministry leader, you're a human interaction specialist. You know how to restore that relationship. Just to own that, hey, I didn't handle this well. It doesn't change my heart and what's going on, but I want to handle this better. You can even ask them without a people pleasing drive behind it. You can even ask them, how would you have wanted me to word that to you? Right? Now, you're not people pleasing. You are just finding a way to communicate so that they understand what's going on in your heart, that you still care about them, but you've got to set about it. And if you communicate like that, it will be huge, right? So you're moving from your behavior of people pleasing into the identity of who you are and trying to lead from that space. So this isn't about saying no more often. It's about becoming a person who is really anchored in who you are within the calling of what you're doing now. So you know your values and you choose accordingly. You're willing to create attention for the truth. You stay connected without losing yourself. Let them know you still care. And you discern amongst all of this what actually matters. You don't need everyone to like you to be a person of integrity. They may not like how you're acting, but who's that about really at that point? It's not about you. It's about them. And now, as a pastor, you're not pleasing, but you can still walk alongside them as they wrestle with this new way of doing it. It doesn't mean you have to cross back over, oh, okay, I'll relent and fall back into the trap. It is, I'm going to love you as we make this new change. I recognize this is difficult. How do you want to hear it from me? What do you need that I can give and that I'm willing to give? But know that it can't be the same. I cannot keep going down this route. Well, cannot. See, even I said it. I'm not willing to keep going down this route because it's going to destroy the ministry. It's going to destroy me. It's actually going to destroy our relationship if I keep going this direction. And just have those conversations, those frank conversations with them. Own that you've been people pleasing. Own that it's protecting you in some way. Own that it's been a fear of what might happen if I was more authentic about truthfully what's going on. So, where is one place this next week that you will choose truth over approval? And what is one honest conversation that you've been avoiding that you need to step into this next week? And then, when will you do it? Write it down. Write down when you're going to do it. A place where you need to choose truth over approval, a place where you need to have an honest conversation, and you are going to do it by when. At least set up the conversation. You might not have it but you may have to say, I want to go to coffee with you Monday, and I need to have a conversation with you. Set it up, and then know that it's going to be tough, and own that this is tough. I have found one of the things when I have to have a tough conversation with a person that I care deeply about, I own the fear of the conversation. I just say, I am afraid this will damage a connection with you. However, the way we're going is damaging. And so this may not even come out the way I intend it. And I may even ask you to reflect back to me some of the things that I've said so that I can make sure that I've articulated it well. And I want you to take that phrase, take that little segment, and put it in your toolbox. Please reflect back for me what I've told you because I want to make sure I've articulated it well. Rather than, please reflect back for me so I know you heard what I said. See the difference? The first one is full ownership. Whether I've articulated it well is on me, and then I can change some of the words. Don't slip into people pleasing when it comes to that. Just slip into common communication, common understanding. We're coming to an understanding together. So I challenge you to step in this week into one area and have that conversation, schedule it, work through it. If you want some guidance, get a mentor, practice it beforehand. If you want some deeper guidance into how to move from this, set a time up with me and let's talk. Let's be able to get you prepared to step into your true, authentic self rather than this tumultuous people pleasing that you've been doing for who knows how long. I hope today has been helpful. I'm glad you've been able to join us. Don't forget, you are there for a reason. You are called to be in this role, and you want to be the strongest, loving pastor ministry leader you can be so that you can fulfill that calling that God has called you to. Hope this has been helpful. Blessings to you. God bless you in your ministry. Are you curious about how strong leader development can support your growth? Book a free discovery session with me, and I'll walk you through what it looks like and how I can help you in whatever fashion you need. I like to listen and hear what you have and design whatever works best for you. So reach out and book that free session